Zendaya, Josh O'Connor, Mike Faist. Three unicorns in the realm of acting, undeniably skilled in their practice. To choose who was better would be like splitting an atom, like picking your favorite children. Or worse, making a Sophie's choice. Yet Sophie made it. I've watched a ton of reviewers pick their favorites with reasonable justifications, but of the three actors and challengers, I'd say Mike Faist quietly gave the best performance. Let's discuss. I remember where I was when I read the casting announcement. I was on my bed, wanking off. I'm kidding. I was on my bed, scrolling through Instagram on a lazy weekend when the article surfaced and piqued my attention. I read the script years back when it broke into the blacklist and found the storytelling a tad underwhelming, but thought the characters were repugnant and at least interesting. Never in a million years would I have imagined Mike Faist in the shoes of Art Donaldson. Coming off his breakthrough in Spielberg's West Side Story, it was hard for me to reconcile the two. I know he's an actor and being a chameleon is part of the job, but he was so damn convincing as this delinquent, it was hard for me to unsee it. He wore it in his skin and seemed better suited for Patrick Zweig or even Tashi Duncan than Art. Now, Luca has an impeccable eye for talent that cannot be denied. I usually co-sign his casting choices, but I still didn't know if Mike Faist was right for the role. His riff in West Side Story had a magnetic presence, a strong personality. He was daring, passionate, and unpredictable to the point of being menacing. Compare that with Art, who was mousy and deferent, and I just couldn't see the semblance. I couldn't make the connection. I couldn't see Luca's vision. Then I watched Challengers, and all those reservations slowly melted. I couldn't recognize the Faist I thought I knew anymore. He was completely gone, transformed into this dorky, mild-mannered tennis nerd. And the genius of the transformation was, at no point was his art pathetic, because he could easily have been. His softness wasn't annoying or distracting. It didn't grate on your nerves. It was natural, adorable, and arguably made him the most likable of the trio. He was a nice dude, but not a kind one, because like the other two, he wasn't a paragon of virtue either. The difference between him and them is that he was unassertive. He was unsure of himself. He wouldn't take a chance to compete unless he knew he could win, unless the odds favored him. That's why he secretly plotted to win over Tashi, because he didn't feel his best friend deserved her over him. And come due time, her eyes would open to the fact that he was the better suitor. All he had to do was play the long game, wait in the wing for the right time to strike, and as soon as there was an opening, swoop in. He was patient like the hawk, a golden-haired silver tongue. Whereas the other two were open books. What you saw was what you got. They knew who they were and were unapologetic about it. They knew what they wanted and went after it with a ferociousness that matched their talent, a self-assuredness that made Art a slave to their whim, a servant to his self-doubt, always afraid of judgment, always afraid to offend, even though he had so much potential and was probably even more talented than Patrick, if only he could just get out of his own head and throw caution to the wind. This was what Tashi saw in him. Perhaps her one redeeming quality was she believed in him and said it twice as much, but he couldn't see the forest for the trees. That's why she was so frustrated with him. If he didn't hold such promise, she wouldn't have batted an eyelid in his direction, much less start a family with him. He was her ticket to greatness, the greatness that eluded her en route to her prime. And here he was, fumbling the ball, ready to roll over and die. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. He only came alive when he was emotionally wounded. Incentivized by pain at the threat of forever losing Tashi to Patrick, he sprung to life and swung into action, and beat Patrick on both counts, with the fiery motivation that Tashi and Patrick already possessed, a laser-like focus and doggedness they didn't have to muster. It was already there. They already had it. That's why for me, they were less interesting. They weren't that complicated because there wasn't that much more to them than their raison d'etre. Tashi was a victim of circumstance that wanted to live her dreams vicariously through her husband. She was obsessed with tennis. Patrick was an overgrown kid who failed to realize talent alone wasn't enough to prevail in life. And though they had their nuances, Art felt to me like there were more layers of him to peel. And like I said, no actor in general was better than the rest. They were all incredible. It was more a function of what they had to work with. Flawed characters with flawed character development. Because while their motivations weren't always clear, Art was the most fascinating to infer. He was more than meets the eye, and you had to read between the lines. Not of words spoken, but of micro expressions, which Feist delivered with a surgical ease and precision. What he gave off externally was different from what he was thinking. Art was reserved, yet a whole storm of envy was roiling within. He swears he's done with tennis, but I wonder why he grins when he wins at the end. It was less a grin of relief than one of glee, because finally, on his own this time, he defeated Patrick. While Patrick just wanted his friend back, he secretly always wanted to be the victor. And maybe that was what it was about all along, and not Tashi, being afraid to lose because he feared he wasn't good enough to win. So he'd rather rest on his laurels than find out for sure he didn't have what it took to conquer the mountaintop. The inchoate character development doesn't confirm this, but it's fun to speculate because Mike Feist implies it in his acting, which in turn, in my opinion, allowed him give the best performance of the menagerie, or should I say, Menage 3. In any event, I can't wait to see what Mike Feist does next. I'm surprised he's not being courted with offers left and right just yet. He should be on the same pedestal as Austin Butler, Timothy Chalamet, Paul Mescal, even Josh O'Connor by now, but all in good time. He's reportedly been tapped to play a young Hamish Abernathy in the Hunger Games adaptation of Sunrise on a Reaping, and will co-star with Florence Pugh in the Netflix remake of the James Dean classic East of Eden. Now, Sunrise on a Reaping should be fantastic, but I'm more excited for the latter. Mike is a dead ringer for the troubled icon, and I initially had this dream of directing a James Dean biopic with Mike portraying him, but there goes that dream, I guess. I've been beaten to the punch, and I know he will absolutely kill it. Whichever one pans out first, I'm looking forward to it. He's one of the more exciting talents to emerge in the past few years and quickly rising through the ranks to crack my top 5 favorite actors.